Welcome to another video, everyone! I've been wanting to try something new for my predictions. Previously, I would predict the entire elimination order for the remainder of the season, but I feel like that format is getting kind of old and tired, and it's quite a bit of work for something that will very likely get invalidated when the next episode releases anyways. I mean, the last TPOT prediction released the day before TPOT 10 did. This new format will be going episode by episode as each episode releases, which will hopefully allow me to go a little bit more in depth with my predictions and try to predict things that happen in the episode instead of just the elimination. I'll also try to predict the release date because why not? In fact, let's start with the release date prediction. In case you haven't noticed, TPOT episodes have been having a bit of a pattern lately, where they tend to release 6 to 8 weeks apart since TPOT 3, the lone exception being TPOT 10, which took about 12 weeks to release due to personal issues in Sam's life. Speaking of Sam, he has said that TPOT 11 is not going to be the episode that gets shown during the BFDIA and II tour in July. This would also rule out June as the release month, since that would be too close to the tour, which is very likely going to feature TPOT 12 instead. Since TPOT 10 released on March 13th, this would also likely rule out April, except for maybe the last couple days of the month. So the window of time I imagine the episode releasing in would be between April 29th and May 12th. And if I had to predict a specific release date, I think it will be May 9th when TPOT 11 releases. Now we can move on to the eliminations. As we all know, Just Not lost for the second time in a row, and the strongest team on Earth also lost for the first time since TPOT 5, so those two teams will each be losing a member. We don't know what the votes are as they used a Google form, but needing the votes to predict an elimination is for the weak. Let's get into it, starting with the strongest team on Earth. Safe are Grassy, Snowball, and Basketball. The bottom two are Robot Flower and Belle. For Robot Flower, she has become like Flower in Season 1, who was extremely hated. Since TPOT 7, she glued all of the failed debuters to the roof, tried to destroy the recovery center, joined the side of the zombified contestants, and attempted to use Barf Bag to destroy Basketball's above-ground factory. However, this might also allow her to survive, as it is pretty clear that this is all part of an arc, one that Belle doesn't really have any role in aside from one line in TPOT 8. I think Robot Flower will survive pretty easily, and Belle will ultimately leave here. I'm not 100% sure of the rest of the order of safety, but I do feel pretty confident in Belle being the one to leave here. The other team up for elimination this episode was Just Not, who after this elimination will become the smallest team with just 3 remaining members. Last episode, a new friendship has started to form between Book and Price Tag, so both of them will be safe. I'm not sure which of them will be safe first, but I think it's more likely than not that Book will be safe first. This leaves Pillow and Bommy for our bottom two. Bommy didn't really do anything of interest in TPOT 10, while the rest of the team all did. After all, it was Pillow who got Taggy to go talk to Book, even if it was because she refused to do so herself. Combine that with the fact that Bommy still has BFDIA while Pillow doesn't, and I think it's safe to say that he is out of here. So to recap, I believe that Belle and Bommy are the ones who will be eliminated from TPOT. Bommy will probably have the higher vote total of the two, however, and I could see Belle breaking Clock's record of having the lowest save votes in an episode ever. Next I'm gonna talk about 1. Originally, they were going to get their own standalone video, but I decided it would make more sense to include them in this one, since they will likely have a role in TPOT 11. So far, they have had one line in TPOT 9, then appeared in the background a bunch in TPOT 10. It makes one wonder what role one will play. I'm almost certain they will appear in TPOT 11, by the way. The episode number is 2 ones after all, it's too perfect. But there is no clue as to what role they might play. One is that one will play some kind of antagonist role. Maybe they'll try to start another split, attempting to take 2's contestants? Only this time they wouldn't be successful, not having anything as interesting or awesome as 2's powers. But even after this, they could lurk about causing mischief and mayhem, getting in the way of 2's hosting duties and generally making their life harder. The other possibility I have in mind is that they could become a co-host. My 2 ideas aren't necessarily mutually exclusive though. One could be a nuisance at first, then win 2 over and let them be their co-host. But it's also possible that 2 just hires one as their co-host immediately. I don't have anything else to add about this possibility though, other than that they would likely host any rejoin that would happen in this case. Admittedly, I have no clue what the challenge is gonna be. There is virtually no way to predict that, as there are limitless possibilities as to what it could be. What could be a fun idea though, involves Yellowface. He stole Ice Cube's legs and Donut's arms a few episodes back, so maybe the challenge could be to steal them back because of how much of a nuisance he's been lately. Each team would need to take back 1 limb each, and the 2 teams that don't successfully grab one will be up for elimination. Whatever the challenge ends up being, we can immediately rule out Just Not since they will be down to 3 members remaining, regardless of which one gets eliminated, and I also don't see them losing for a 3rd time in a row. I don't see the strongest team on Earth having much trouble with this one either, with Robot Flower being dead and therefore not getting in their way, plus I doubt they lose again so soon. I think one of the teams that will end up losing is Death Pact again, as they just got done with a storyline, so this would be a good time to make them lose again. This means it's between the S, Team 8s, and Are You OK as the other team that will lose. Even though the S just wrapped up a storyline, they also might be starting up another one given how Ice Cube reacted to Book and Taggy at the end of TPOT 10, so I don't think they lose here. However, Team 8s and Are You OK both have 5 members left, the only 2 teams where this is the case. Neither of them have much going on in them. But I personally believe that Are You OK will join Death Pact again in being up for elimination at the end of TPOT 11. So what did you think of this new format for predictions? If this video does well, this will very likely replace my flawed prediction series, as it will mean I won't have to predict eliminations potentially years down the line, only for the whole thing to be invalidated in the next episode. When TPOT 11 does release, I will also predict TPOT 12 and review my predictions for TPOT 11, to see how right or wrong I was. To recap, I predicted a release date of May 9th, Bell leaving the strongest team, Bommy leaving Just Not, one will be either an antagonist or co-host, and Death Pact again and Are You OK will be up for elimination. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe with notifications on. Let me know in the comments what you think will happen, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to a follow-up video to my predictions for TPOT 11, in which I will be making some predictions for TPOT 12. TPOT 11 took me by surprise by not being a challenge-based episode at all, but instead it followed the Exiters successfully escaping out of 4's mouth. The only prediction I made that I'll admit to being completely wrong, since the other thing could still happen in TPOT 12, is the release date. I predicted the episode would come out on May 9th, but it ended up not coming out until June 14th, over a month later. I did, however, correctly predict that TPOT 12 would be the meetup episode, and since it is being shown at the first 3 locations on June 29th, July 6th, and July 13th, that means the episode will release on July 14th, just like how TPOT 6 released the day after last year's second meetup. It's this episode where the elimination for Just Not and the strongest team on Earth will be held. I'm just gonna cut to the chase this time, as I still believe Balmy and Bell will be eliminated, just in TPOT 12 instead. I still think one will have either a villain or co-host role, but if it's the former, I think it would be pushed past TPOT 12 so that more focus can be put on the Exiters in that episode. There is still no way for me to predict what the challenge might be, but I think there will most likely be a chance for two of the Exiters to debut, and the two top placing teams would each get one. In this scenario, I believe the S and Team 8s would each win a debuter. However, if there's an elimination instead of, or perhaps in addition to, the debut, I still think Death Pact Again and Are You OK would lose. What do you think of my predictions? I know this video was very much on the shorter side, but that's just because I'm reusing most of my predictions, just pushed an episode forward, since TPOT 11 ended up being a different type of episode entirely from what I expected. To recap, I believe the episode releases on YouTube on July 14th. There may or may not be a double Exeter debut on the S and Team 8s, and I now think one will not have much of a role until later in the season. However, I still believe Balmy and Bell are gone, and that if there is an elimination, Death Pact Again and Are You OK will each lose a member. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe with notifications on, let me know in the comments what you think will happen, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to my predictions for TPOT 13. TPOT 12 was a great episode, a lot of fun things happened in it. Now it's time to think about what might be next for the show. But first I need to talk about my predictions from the last two videos and see how much I got right. First of all, the release date. I correctly predicted that TPOT 12 would be the meetup episode, and I predicted a YouTube release date of July 14th. That ended up being one day off, as I forgot that they still had one more Seattle showing on the 14th. I was much closer than last time at least, and I did get it right that it would be the day after the third tour location. Although, it was still the 14th in Hawaii, so maybe I could count it. Also, I correctly predicted that Balmy and Bell would be eliminated. Just wasn't nearly as close as I anticipated though, while the strongest team's bottom two was way closer than I expected. I even nailed the order of safety for both teams, getting them exactly correct. Admittedly, basketball not being bottom two was a bit of a Hail Mary, but I'm glad it paid off. And now here's where things start to fall apart. In this episode we see a team swap, making it actually impossible for Death Pact Again and Are You OK to lose, because they no longer exist. Instead, we see the formation of 4 new teams. Death Pact Yet Again, which consists of the remaining members of Death Pact Again, plus Pin and Gady, with Robot Flower being added after they place first in the challenge. Team 2, which consists of Book, Eraser, Grassy, Ice Cube, Price Tag, and Snowball. Music, announced in the show as a musical sequence, consisting of Basketball, Bottle, Needle, Pen, Tennis Ball, and TV. And the rest, Barf Bag, Donut, Golf Ball, Pillow, Winner, and Yellowface, are on Cloudy Yay. One did have a role in the episode, though not really in a villain or co-host role, at least not yet. They got Fanny a new mouth and Ice Cube new legs in exchange for them signing something. We don't know the details of that yet, though. Finally, there will be both an elimination and an exiter joining the game, but only one. I predicted that it would be a double debut, but it isn't. I predicted a double elimination or a debut as well, not both. Who will leave and who will join? That's what the rest of the video is for, of course. First off, we have another release date prediction on our hands. I think we will be going back to a pace of every 2 months for new TPOT episodes after this. which means going by that logic, TPOT 13 will most likely release sometime in September. My prediction is sometime during the week of September 16th. However, given that TPOT 11 and TPOT 12 are likely being produced at the same time, and the latter premiered back at the first tour location in late June, it is also possible for the episode to release earlier in September, or even in late August. I'm really not sure about this one, to be honest. As I showed the voting screen earlier, I don't need to repeat that Cloudy and Music lost, but I will anyways. They tied for 4th place, so I'll do Cloudy first as they are on the left side of the voting screen. Interestingly, instead of 1 vote total, each person gets to vote someone on each team, which will likely shake things up. As always, the safe contestants will each disappear one by one in the order I think they will be safe in. First up is Winner, then Golf Ball, Donut, and Pillow. The bottom 2 for Cloudy is Barfbag and Yellowface. Barfbag is widely seen as bland, and she definitely is compared to the rest of this team. On the other hand, Yellowface is kind of a wild card as he hasn't been at stake in TPOT since he started shifting towards being much cockier than before, and it's unclear how popular that will turn out to be. However, similar to Robot Flower, I think that may benefit him and he will survive, which means that Barfbag will be the first contestant to leave the game in this new team phase. But which member of Music will be the second contestant to leave? We are about to find out as it is now their turn. Pen and Needle both had pretty big roles in this episode, so I think they will be safe. Basketball also has a new storyline with One, so she is definitely also going to survive without a doubt. And I think Tennis Ball will be safe too. So for the bottom 2, this leaves Bottle and TV. The other one was clearer, but this one is practically a toss-up between these two. However, I think Eraser targeting Bottle for his new rivalry is what may end up saving her in the end. As a result, I think TV will get out. But that's not the end in terms of votes this time around, as there's also going to be an Exeter debut. Which one will get to join the show? I do not think it will be David, Robotty, Fiery Jr., Match, 8-Ball, Dora, Stapy, and I think Pencil will fall short as well since she is still in BFDIA. Lai is pretty obvious why she's here, but Bracelety ends up alongside her because, quite frankly, she was awesome in TPOT 11. Really all of them are great there, but she stuck out in particular in my opinion. Plus I believe whoever wins will join Team 2, which is Ice Cube's team. However, I'm gonna take the predictable route and say that Lai is going to be the one to win out in the end. I do see it being somewhat close between her and Bracelety though, probably within 1,000 votes. Now, I can't predict the challenge once again, but I can predict some of the dynamics that will crop up, like Eraser and Bottle's rivalry, which Bottle is oblivious to, Book and Tacky continue their friendship, Robot Flower will continue to cause mayhem, and One will continue to do stuff in the background. As for the losing teams, I think Cloudy will lose to give Bottle and Eraser more time, then to protect Lai, or whoever joins, from immediately leaving, not that I think that would be super likely anyways. Death Pact again will be the other losing team. What do you think of my predictions? Let me know in the comments, along with what you think will happen, as I'm very interested to know your opinions. But for now, I will leave you off with the recap of my predictions. I believe the episode will release during the week of September 16th, Barfbag and TV will get out, Lai will debut on Team 2, One will continue to have a background role, and the losing teams will be Cloudy and Death Pact yet again. Thank you for watching, make sure to subscribe with notifications on, and I'll see you in the next one. I knew TPOT 13 was going to be a great episode, but my expectations were absolutely blown out of the water, just like how various contestants got blown about by the storm. Anyways, it is now time for me to think about what my predictions for TPOT 14 are, and to see what I got right, or how wrong I was, about various aspects of TPOT 13. First of all, the release date. I predicted that TPOT 13 would be released during the week of September 16th. However, just like last episode, I came extremely close to being correct, but not quite, as the episode actually ended up releasing on September 14th, 2 days earlier than the earliest I believed the episode would release. I'm going to talk about the exit debut before the elimination, as that happened first in the actual episode. I correctly predicted that Lai would get the most votes, though it wasn't close at all like I predicted it might be. She ended up getting 5,000 more votes than Pencil, who was second place instead of Bracelety like I predicted. It also turned out to be a double debut after all, even though I assumed it would be just one, as that is what 2 said at the end of TPOT 12. It's 1's fault for changing the whiteboard when nobody was looking. I should also mention that Lai ended up joining Bagged and not Team 2 like I predicted, and Pencil went to Cloudy. As for the teams who lost, I will start with Cloudy as 2 also started with them. I'm using their pre-debut team poses as Pencil and Lai were not up for elimination for obvious reasons. Even though I didn't get the order of safety right, I did correctly get the bottom 2, as well as which of them would be eliminated, that being Barf Bag. Even though I'm glad I was right, I'm a little disappointed because, to be honest, I would have rather it been Yellowface. I don't even want Barf Bag to win, I just want Yellowface to lose. Unfortunately, I didn't get Bagged right at all. Not only was TV not eliminated, he wasn't even close. Needle got out instead. He can't keep getting away with this. Also in the bottom 2 was Bottles, so for what it's worth, I at least got Bottles placement right. I actually also got Basketball right. I'll take whatever wins I can get here, honestly. About 1. They very much did not have a background role in the episode, but a very central role instead. For one is responsible for the storm that took Leafy from Fiery and was the center of the day's challenge. Leafy might be dead, but she may have also been taken by 1, since it seems like Fiery couldn't even find a body. Side note, but now I'm wondering if Fiery is going to try to head back to mainland Goiki, since as far as he knows, Leafy's gone. After all, certainly he'd want to try to bring her back, right? Back on topic, but we also now know 1's end goal, to get 2's powers, as they are not satisfied with the powers they currently have. They seem to be doing this by getting the contestants to agree to a deal, which I suspect is to give 1 the powers if they win TPOT, and in return get something. Like Fanny in her mouth, Ice Cube in her legs, and a fixed robot flower for Basketball. We don't see Balmy and Belle in the episode, but we can presume where they ended up. In that same void place where 1 shows that Barfbag and Needle are after they take them, threatening Basketball with that same fate if she doesn't sign the contract. I am very concerned about and interested in 1's future role, as it has now seemingly been confirmed that they are the first time there's been a proper villain with a real motive in the series. Before this, Evil Leafy was the closest we'd gotten, but we don't really know if she has a motive or anything. As I previously alluded to, Robot Flower did continue to cause mayhem, but this was also the episode where that storyline came to an end. The rest of Death Pact yet again got into a really well animated fight scene with her, with Fanny ultimately incapacitating her. She took her to Tennis Ball to have him try to fix her, but it was Basketball making that deal with one that ultimately resulted in Robot Flower being fixed finally. However, the other two dynamics I brought up weren't so relevant this episode. There were at least crumbs of the Eraser Bottle rivalry during the elimination, but not really anything with Book and Price Tag aside from them fighting the fish monsters together as part of the challenge. Finally, I did correctly predict that Death Pact yet again would be up for elimination, but the other losing team with Team 2 instead of Cloudier. In my defense though, I did also believe that Team 2 was going to get a debuter and not Cloudier, and I did correctly guess they wouldn't want to put whoever joins in danger right away. Now that I've covered all of the things I predicted last time, we can move on to my predictions for next time. First off, the release date. I think we will have another 2-month wait, where TPOT 14 will come around the week of November 11th. This would tie in perfectly with the 1 stuff since the date would be 11/11. As I have already stated, Team 2 and Death Pact yet again lost the challenge, which means one member of each team will be leaving the game at the start of TPOT 14. It is time to reveal who I think will leave, and what the order of safety will end up being for each team. Since a fish monster was the first thing to disturb 2's sleep, that means Team 2 did worse, so they will lose a member. Just like every single other time that he has been up for elimination, Grassy will be the first one safe by a pretty sizable margin. I will be very surprised if he isn't. The second one safe, I believe, will be Book. Snowball probably won't get as many votes in the past as he now likely has to share with Eraser. Nevertheless, Snowball will be the third one safe in my opinion, and Eraser will follow shortly after. This leaves us with Price Tag and Ice Cube as the bottom two. Which of them do I think will leave the show? I think Price Tag is going to leave the show in 25th place. This is because Ice Cube made a deal with one, so she is tied to that storyline, not to mention a possible conflict with Pencil, while Price Tag isn't really in any storylines. This makes them the first debuter to leave the game. For a brief time, Death Pact yet again was the largest team with 7 members, but then they became part of a 3-way tie for largest. Now the question is which of them will leave, making the team the second smallest. I think Pin will be the first one safe since she is definitely the most popular of the contestants on this team without a doubt. Of those left, I think next up to be safe is Fanny, for the same reason Ice Cube survived, as she has ties to the One storyline. She was also the one to defeat Robot Flower, which definitely helps her as well. Speaking of Robot Flower, she will be next, now that her storyline is concluded and she is likable again. Black Hole will be safe next due to being the one who ended up ending the storm in the end. Tree will end up escaping the bottom 3, though these 3 will probably be fairly close in their votes. Marker in the bottom 2 may be a bit controversial, but it kind of feels like his popularity might be slipping a bit. Nevertheless, he will survive to see another day, and Gady will end up being the other contestant who will leave the game. I am predicting that instead of going to the place we saw Clock and Pie at, future contestants who get out will be taken by one and put in the place where we saw Barf Bag and Needle. Given the release date I'm predicting, I believe that one will have a major role once again in TPOT 14. Perhaps with a villain song? That could be fun. I'm also thinking there will almost certainly be conflict with Pencil, Book, and Ice Cube. We've already even seen hints of that in TPOT 13. Lai, on the other hand, I suspect will primarily be interacting with Pen and Bottle as they are fellow former Death Pactors. Since all 4 teams have already lost, there isn't really a clear answer as to who will lose next. It's highly likely one team will lose twice in a row, and since Team 2 will already be down to 5 members, I think Death Pact yet again will lose a second consecutive time. Additionally, since Lai did so much better in the debut voting, she is most likely far safer than Pencil is. As a result, I think Bagged will be the other team that loses. What do you think of my predictions? Let me know in the comments, along with what you think will happen, as I am very interested to know your opinions. But for now, I will leave you off with the recap of my predictions. I believe the episode will release during the week of November 11th, Price Tag and Gady will be eliminated, one will perform additional villainy, and the losing teams will be Death Pact yet again, and Bagged. Thank you for watching, make sure to subscribe with notifications on, and I'll see you in the next one. I for one would say that TPOT 14 lived up to my expectations pretty well. It had a very cool challenge with a couple of references to Super Mario 64 such as the slide. Anyways, it is now time for me to think about what my predictions for TPOT 15 are, and to see what I got right, or how wrong I was, about various aspects of TPOT 14. First of all, the release date. I predicted that the release date would be in the week of November 11th, and I was very, very close on that, as it ended up coming out on November 9th. It also came out at a reasonable time of day for once, which doesn't always happen with TPOT episodes. I came stupidly close to perfectly predicting the elimination. For Team 2, and it ended up being Eraser who got out and not Ice Cube, though I did correctly guess she would be in the bottom 2. Price Tag was also safe much earlier than I predicted. Then there's Death Pact yet again. Unlike Team 2, I did get their elimination correct, that being Gady. Unfortunately, I got pretty much the entire rest of the order of safety incorrect. But the eliminated contestant is the most important part, so at least I got that right. I feel bad for 2 though. They were devastated when she got out. 1 wasn't entirely absent, but she had a very minor role this time around. She didn't end up kidnapping Eraser because, although they didn't know why, the contestants had caught on to contestants going missing and were able to keep it from happening to Eraser and Gady before 2 could send them away. Of course, 2 kept Gady around in the kitchen, so she may still be in danger, but she's safe for the time being at least. Also cool is that we got to see the eliminated contestants again, with Foldy in particular having the longest absence, especially as she wasn't present in any way in BFDIA. The challenge was a lot more fun than that of BFDIA 15, but I don't have much to say about this episode, as there really wasn't much in the way of new storyline developments, other than the aforementioned bits, and Pencil being very pushy about her cross-team alliance with Book and Icy in the pre-cake at stake scene. Finally, I got both of the losing teams correct this time, those being Death Pact yet again, and Bagged. Now that I've covered all of the things I predicted last time, we can move on to my predictions for next time. First off, the release date. It's a safe bet that TPOT 15 will be the first episode to release in 2025, which will mean that TPOT will have started 4 years ago. In fact, I think they do the episode on the exact anniversary of TPOT, January 10th. As I have already stated, Death Pact yet again and Bagged lost the challenge, which means one member of each team will be leaving the game at the start of TPOT 15. It is time to reveal who I think will leave and what the order of safety will end up being for each team. There was no clear team that did worse this time, so I will do Death Pact yet again first since they are on top on the voting screen. Black Hole will undoubtedly be the first safe again. Likewise, Fanny will be the second one safe again. Pin will end up taking the next spot as I believe she is the most likely to get the voters who voted for Gady in the next episode. However, I think her and Marker will be very close together in their votes. This leaves us with Robot, Flower, and Tree as the bottom two. One of them will also be close to Marker and Pin, while the other will have considerably less. It could conceivably be either of them, with Tree's fans realizing he's in danger and rallying, and Robot Flower arguably causing the team to lose by continually answering delivery calls. However, that arguably helps sometimes. I think Robot Flower will survive in the end as Tree hasn't really done all that much of note lately. He did have a new snowy look briefly, but I highly doubt that will be enough to save him at this point. It might be a cop-out given he was bottom 2 last time, but I do really think he's as good as gone. Now on to Bagged. Lai is absolutely going to end up being the first one safe, given she just came back after a long time absent, and she was pretty great in this episode. I think Pen is next, as he will get a lot of people who feel bad that he keeps losing all of his friends. First Blocky, then Needle, and now Eraser. Tennis Ball comes third, as he is all around a very likable guy. Basketball is also protected from being at risk because of her involvement in the arc with 1. Bottle and TV are the bottom 2, just like how them and Needle were in the bottom 3 last time they lost. If I'm being honest, I have a gut feeling that this is the episode where TV will finally leave the game. Similar to Tree, he really didn't have that much to do this episode, where Bottle actually had some relevance. I have a pretty strong feeling that next episode we may see the eliminated contestants again. Whether that is the ones that 1 took, or the ones that are in 2's elimination place, I could go either way. The conflict that is present between the remaining 3 Smarters will continue, and I think there will be a big moment between them as things come to a boiling point. As for the losing teams, my answer is simple. I think it will just be the 2 teams that did not lose in TPOT 14. Those being Team 2 and Cloudier. What do you think of my predictions? Let me know in the comments along with what you think will happen, as I am very interested to know your opinions. But for now, I will leave you off with the recap of my predictions. I believe that an episode will release on January 10th, 2025, Tree and TV will be eliminated, we will see more of the eliminated contestants, and the losing teams will be Team 2 and Cloudier. Thank you for watching, make sure to subscribe with notifications on, and I'll see you in the next one. The release of BFDIA 12 means it's time for another one of these. This time it will be centered around BFDIA 13 if you couldn't guess from the title. I have predictions for the release date, the elimination and the prize, the challenge, who will lose, and even some miscellaneous stuff. So no time to waste, let's get into it. First up is the release date prediction. BFDIA 12 came out on May 16th, 2024. So that means BFDIA 13 will almost certainly be the episode that gets shown at the second 3 tour locations. The last tour location is Fort Lauderdale on August 3rd and 4th, so it would have to be after that. Going by last year, where TPOT 6 and Inanimate Insanity Invitational 14 released the day after the second meetup, then I believe the release date will be August 5th. Now we can move on to the elimination. As we all know, all of the teams except for FreeSmart were put up for voting. First off is the prize. I think it's a safe bet that it will go to Pin, between being shrunk on top of losing her limbs and face, and the scenes where she interacts one-on-one with Coiny. As for the elimination, we don't know the real dislikes, and I don't really trust the dislike extension to give accurate amounts after BFDIA 11, where it showed Ice Cube with the most, but Spongy ended up getting out instead, so I guess I just have to wing it. Without a doubt, Pin will be the first one safe, and Coiny will certainly follow immediately after. Tennis Ball will be safe next, and Golf Ball shortly thereafter, as she seems to be a lot less hated these days. Fries will escape the bottom 3, leaving Nickel and Bomby for the bottom 2. Neither of them did that much in BFDIA 12, which is why they end up here. However, I think Nickel will be eliminated since he hasn't done that much the last few episodes either, and I feel Bomby is more popular than him in general. Still, I feel like we've reached the point in the season where anyone would be missed, and Nickel is no exception despite the fact that he's the one whose video I disliked. Before we get into the next section, I want to address a couple things that may happen in the season as a whole. Regarding the Coiny and Pin thing, it's pretty obvious that they're going to get compacted and go back to that cursed 3D world to figure out a way to get Pin's limbs, face, and size back. I find it interesting that that's being brought back to begin with, actually. I thought it would be a one-off gag thing. That said, I doubt any of this is gonna happen next episode, but later in the season instead. Also, this might sound weird, but in a dream an idea appeared in my mind about how the recommended characters that didn't join BFDIA got their updated redesigns. They eat some fruit that resembles a peach, or maybe a bunch of said fruit, and as a result, their design changes to more closely resemble how they look in IDFB. This probably isn't a realistic possibility in the slightest, but it's something to think about. Anyways, back to predicting BFDIA 13. After the elimination, I think the merge will be announced, as there will only be 10 contestants left. Unfortunately, there isn't really any way to predict a challenge, but the dream that told me how the TLC characters get their redesigns also gave me a possible idea for a challenge, involving Gelatin. Somehow he escapes the WTF, couldn't possibly imagine how, and makes it back to where the other contestants are. Either that or they return to Yoyo Land because the recovery center's there. He also steals one of Fries' fries. For some reason in my dream he filled in the missing chunks of himself with bits of the fry, but that's irrelevant. The challenge ends up being to catch Gelatin, and it ends up being Coiny who does so. However, he can choose one other contestant to be safe, and naturally he chooses Pin since she is completely unable to do anything herself. As a result, the other 8 contestants get put up for elimination. That said, there's also the possibility that this ends up being a rejoin episode instead, since Season 1 also had a rejoin at 10 contestants remaining. Especially if Pin and Coiny do get compacted in this episode, as the focus may be more on that than the contest. That is all of my predictions for BFDIA 13. Once TPOT 11 comes out, I will be predicting TPOT 12, and I may even expand this format to other object shows as well if there's interest. Additionally, when BFDIA 13 comes out, I will predict BFDIA 14 and see how accurate my predictions were. To recap, I predicted a release date of August 5th, Nickel being eliminated in 11th place, the merge will be at the final 10, and everyone except Coiny and Pin will be up for elimination. Thank you for watching, make sure to subscribe with notifications on, let me know in the comments what you think will happen, and I'll see you in the next one. Since BFDIA 14's YouTube release is right around the corner, I will be doing another one of these. Like the predictions for TPOT 12 video, this one will be quick. Also, if you have already seen BFDIA 14, do not comment spoilers before the episode releases, or your comment will be removed. Now, let's get into it. First up is the release date prediction. It has essentially been confirmed at this point that BFDIA 14 will be releasing on YouTube immediately after the last tour showing, on August 5th, likely at 12:01 Pacific time as TPOT 12 released on July 15th at that same time. The main reason I bring this up is that I did in fact get the release date correct. However, my prediction was for BFDIA 13, so I technically got it wrong. However, I did predict that BFDIA 13 would see the return of the cursed 3D world. Kind of. I thought Coiny would get compacted along with Pin, but technically he never died. Sadly, even though Coiny successfully pulled Pin out, she did not get her limbs, face, or size back, though we could have assumed the limbs part going by what she says in IDFB1. Even though I didn't correctly predict how it would happen, we do learn how the residents of the TLC get their updated designs. It was not some kind of fruit, but instead by a laser that Gelatin fired and hit the airborne TLC. Speaking of Gelatin, I correctly predicted that the residents of the WTF would realize that, hey, it's actually super easy to sneak out of here and go explore Yoil City. That led to many fun shenanigans in BFDIA 13, as well as the long-awaited return of Leafy since Fiery remembered to recover her. The role she will play in future episodes remain to be seen, however. Even though I was pretty far off on some of my predictions, I was onto something with some of what I said, so that should count for something. Now, let's recap the other predictions, the one where the jury is still out. To recap, I predicted a release date of August 5th. Nickel being eliminated in 11th place while Pin wins the prize, the merge will be at the final 10, and everyone except Coiny and Pin will be up for elimination. Yep, I haven't budged on any of my other predictions. Thank you for watching, make sure to subscribe with notifications on, let me know in the comments what you think will happen, and I'll see you in the next one. The BFDIA and Inanimate Insanity Tour episode of BFDIA has finally released on YouTube. That means it is yet again time for another one of these. We have got quite a few things to go through between checking the accuracy of the last predictions and the new upcoming predictions, so let's get right into it. First, we need to recap the release date prediction. I predicted that the episode would be released on YouTube the day after the final tour location on August 5th. That turned out to be incorrect, and instead it came on August 10th, alongside Animatic Insanity II's 15th episode, which released a few hours earlier. Even though I never made a prediction about this either way, I should touch on the fact that Pin ended up getting her size and face back in this episode, as well as a substitution for her limbs in the form of treads. This takes me to my elimination prediction. I did correctly predict that Pin would win the prize, though to be fair that was a pretty easy one to guess. Getting her face and size back, along with the treads, were her prize. Not so easy was who would get the most dislikes. I predicted that Nickel would be the one who had the most dislikes. He cut it close between the rest of the bottom 4, but had the least out of them. It also wasn't Fries or Bommy, but Golf Ball who barely had the most dislikes, which means she is now out of the game. My next prediction is that we would hit the merge now that we are down to the final 10, and unfortunately for me, I don't think we have. On one hand, the previous teams didn't show up on the voting screen. However, the wiki also doesn't say that the teams have been dissolved, and there's new team poses for Wobunch and Team No Name, which is now just Tennis Ball. Side note, not sure why Book still has the pink cover in their team pose. She hasn't had it since she was recovered last time. As for who I thought would win and lose, I got that partially right as well. I did correctly predict that Coiny and Pin would be safe, and that Book and Ruby would be up for elimination. However, I predicted that only Coiny and Pin would be safe, and not that only Book and Ruby would be up for elimination. So I would say that one was about 50-50. Now we can start with my predictions for next time. My current prediction for BFDIA 15's release date is that it will be sometime in early October. As for the most part, BFDIA and TPOT alternate in their release schedules. Since I predict mid-September for TPOT 13, it would follow that BFDIA 15 would come after that. Now for the elimination. The cool thing about only 2 contestants being in danger is that my prediction has a 50-50 shot of being correct. This also means that this part should be quick. Of these 2, Book will be the one to win the prize. She's already confirmed to have more likes than Ruby, which is most likely because it was Ruby's idea to cheat by using a remix of Pin's first attempt at a song. The dislikes, however, are not visible, and I'm not using the votes from the dislike plugin because that has proven to be inaccurate before. Just ask Spongy. However, due to the aforementioned cheating, I believe that Ruby is the one who will be eliminated from the show. As an aside, turns out I had more to say than I thought about this elimination, even despite only 2 being at stake. Probably because both are pretty heavy hitters of contestants. BFDIA 14 saw the return of Bubble again, and she actually got to do stuff this time, unlike in BFDIA 9. I think Pencil reviving Bubble and her getting to exist in the show will become a regular occurrence from here, especially with another Free Smarter out of the picture. We will also see continued involvement of the TLC characters in hosting the show, as I'm not sure how they would even die with how impervious the TLC and LOL are. Even Dora's island chomping Chaw wasn't enough to break through. Another side note, this shot here is a great example of how incredible this episode was in the visual department. I'd even go as far as to argue that these last 2 BFDIA episodes are the best this series has ever looked. It's peak, I'm afraid. Anyways, who do I think will get up for elimination? I think it will be like BFDIA 12, where one team ends up safe and the others are all up for elimination at the same time. Since either Book or Ruby are going to the WTF, I think Free Smart will be safe and the rest will get up for voting. Unfortunately, this time I was pretty far off with many of my predictions for BFDIA 14. Hopefully the ones I've come up with for BFDIA 15 are more accurate, and I feel pretty good about them to tell the truth. To recap, I predicted that the episode would release in October, Book will win the prize and Ruby will get eliminated, Bubble will be more involved going forward, the TLC residents will get to host for more than one episode,
and everyone except Free Smart will be up for elimination. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe with notifications on. Let me know in the comments what you think will happen, and I'll see you in the next one.
BFDIA 15 has released, which means that it's time for me to make another prediction video. I don't really have anything more to add to this beginning segment, so let's just get right into it. I feel a bit bad about not predicting a specific release date as opposed to a general release window, because there's a good chance I would have been on the money with it, as the episode came out on October 4th, which is definitely early October, which was my prediction for when it would come out. The part about the elimination will be very quick, as only 2 contestants were up for elimination. I also got both parts right, with Book getting the prize and Ruby being eliminated. Interestingly, Ruby still got more likes than she did dislikes, so it seems the events of the last episode didn't seem to tarnish her popularity that badly. You could technically say I got the prediction where Bubble will appear more correctly, as she did appear in the episode, even if it was only for a few seconds before Needle popped her, because Bubble called Needle the word Needle doesn't like, and I won't say it either because I don't want to get smacked. Naturally, I was also correct that the residents of the TLC would continue to collectively host BFDIA together. Good thing too, as it allows contestants who are eliminated in TPOT, or otherwise not present in that season, to have screen time they otherwise wouldn't get, which is never a bad thing. As for the losers, as it turns out, we do in fact seem to be in the merge. For what it's worth, I did correctly guess that Pencil would be safe, and that Pin, Nickel, Tennis Ball, and Bommy would be up for elimination, so I was over half right in the statuses of the contestants. However, Fries and Coiny were safe when I thought they would lose, while Needle and Book were in danger when I thought they would be safe. Now that the recap is done, I think it's time for my actual predictions. First off, I think my theory of the first 2 seasons releasing a new episode in alternating months has been pretty much proven at this point, so I'm thinking BFDIA 16 will come out in early December, since I predict that TPOT 14 will be a November release. Now for the elimination. 6 contestants were up for elimination at the end of BFDIA 15. There are spoilers for the likes and dislikes ahead, so click off the video now if you don't want to see them. The likes for who gets the prize were fairly close, but it ended up being Tennis Ball between him and Pin. He got around 45,000 likes compared to around 42,000 for Pin, according to the preliminary total on the wiki. Even though the dislike amount from the Bring Back Dislikes Chrome extension is inaccurate, because it only registers dislikes from other people with the extension, the amount derived from them have a wide enough gap for it to be safe to say Bommy is probably going to get out, unless a ton of people without the extension dislike Nickel. Interestingly, Pin is bottom 3 according to those same numbers, so she might be in a bit of danger next time she loses. Also, I gotta say, Tennis Ball is constantly getting very few dislikes whenever he's up for elimination. I think there's a very good chance he'll end up winning the whole show. He will almost certainly make it to the finale though. I will be very surprised if he doesn't. But I'm getting ahead of myself by several months. Now it is time to decide who will lose the challenge this time. I think 4 will end up at stake. I think 2 of the 3 who won immunity last time will be in danger this time, and that 3 who lost last time will be safe. My prediction is that Fries will get immunity for the 2nd episode in a row, Nickel, Book, and Pin will also be safe, while Tennis Ball, Pencil, Coiny, and Needle will be the contestants up for elimination. My predictions for BFDIA 15 went a lot better than the ones I made for BFDIA 14, even despite that I assumed we weren't hitting the merge quite yet. Here's hoping that I'm able to keep this up. To recap, I predicted that the episode will release in December, Tennis Ball will win the prize and Bommy will get eliminated, Fries, Nickel, Pin, and Book will be safe, and Coiny, Tennis Ball, Needle, and Pencil will be up for elimination. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe with notifications on. Let me know in the comments what you think will happen, and I'll see you in the next one. Another BFDIA episode means time for another prediction video. As always, I will start with what I got wrong or right from last time, then the predictions for next episode. Let's get right into it without any further delay. For the release date, I predicted early December and I ended up being correct on that, as the episode released as early into the month as it possibly could have, December 1st. I correctly predicted both aspects of the elimination. Tennis Ball did indeed end up winning the prize, which was to be expected given I knew the likes. Bommy also did end up getting eliminated, but Pin was bottom 2 and not bottom 3 like I had predicted. Unfortunately, Bubble didn't appear at all in the episode, but it is just one episode. There is still plenty of time for her to come back into the show for a bit. The TLC residents do technically still host, but Balloony stopped all the rest of them from talking at all and just hosted on his own this episode. Pretty understandable after the last couple. But also, Byrie Jr. is in a bit of trouble, I think. You know, because oxygen and fire. That might be bad for Bottle too. At this point, I honestly have no idea if we're actually in the merge or not. Free Smart and Wobunch are arguably alliances rather than formal teams, especially as Needle divided her time between both. And we now have 3 one-member teams. One of those was Nickel, who was the one who ended up winning this episode. I did correctly predict Nickel having immunity for what it's worth. Now that the recap is done, it's time for my actual predictions. I think that since BFDIA released so early in the month this time around, I will once again predict a super early into the month release date for February 1st. Now for the eliminations. 7 contestants were up for elimination at the end of BFDIA 15. Needle was featured on the elimination screen twice, so I think I have an idea of what they are going to do. They are going to combine the likes of both Needles as well as the dislikes of both Needles. This will result in her being both the one who wins the prize and the one who gets eliminated, the first time this has happened since BFDIA 4. I think there's a good chance we see more symptoms of the glowing mushrooms that Fries ate in BFDIA 16. Perhaps new symptoms that weren't mentioned by book. Now it's time to decide who will lose the challenge this time. One of the teams will be safe this time. Since Nickel just won this time, I will rule out him winning twice in a row, so it will be someone else. This time I think it will be Fries who ends up winning immunity, while all of the rest are up for elimination. My predictions for BFDIA 16 were okay, but definitely not perfect. Hopefully my predictions for BFDIA 17 will be more accurate. To recap, I predicted that the episode will release on February 1st, Needle will both win the prize and be eliminated, and Fries will win the challenge while everyone else is up for elimination. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe with notifications on. Let me know in the comments what you think will happen, and I'll see you in the next one. Animatic Battle has taken many people by surprise, myself included, by just how good it is, particularly in terms of its comedic value. As of writing, it is 2 episodes in, probably too early for a full-on flawed prediction. But instead, I wanted to try something different. Shorter, more experimental, where I try to predict who will leave the game in episode 3 of Animatic Battle. How this will work is simple. I'm going to say the order of safety for each team and try to come up with reasons as to why their placement is what it is. Anyways, the 2 teams that got up for elimination are Happy Meat Bill and Team Diet. How many votes will be cast total? Well, in episode 1, 3,466 votes were cast in total. I actually think episode 2 will have more, especially since it has 2 teams losing at once, with each voter choosing the same someone on each team. I'll estimate around 3,800 voters or so, even though I won't assign vote totals to the contestants. Since Happy Meat Bill died off first, I'm going to go over them first. I believe that the first one to be safe will be Bowling Ball, as he made a valiant attempt to protect his team from extermination, and is definitely fan favorite material. Next is Yoshi Egg due to their unique concept, and they could be categorized as being a cute character. Third safe, Golden Apple. I feel like his snooty demeanor would quickly garner him a sizable fan base. The fact that he's funny as heck definitely helps him as well.
I'm not going to do that. I have no imagination.
Fourth is Bob-omb. He seems to be the team's leader, as he's the main one who attempted to come up with a strategy in episode 2, and leader figures tend to do decently in Vote to Save. The latter half of the team didn't really do much this episode, but Tomato would be next, as some might find his wanting to die funny. Eye Patch falls to the bottom 3. He has a couple of funny moments, but really didn't get much screen time this episode. This leaves Sticky and Bouquet for the bottom 2. Neither of them are bad characters, but the others are just better. Bouquet has shown herself to be compassionate and caring, while Sticky helped come up with the strategy to win them episode 1. I think Bouquet will ultimately survive, which means Sticky will get 63rd place.
Delightful. Incredibly exciting, too.
Now it's time for one of Team Diet's members to be exterminated in the same oddly terrifying way that Doorframe got exterminated in. The first one safe will be Weathery, because people will feel bad for them after they felt like they were betrayed. Likewise, Doorstopper will also survive, since people felt bad for the misunderstanding between her and Weathery, and also because of how violent she is and how she can flip that mood on a dime.
Well, okay!
Spaz 12 is third because of her dynamic with Doorstopper, and the irony of her personality and design clashing. Nonagon's booming voice and big smile will earn them the 4th safe spot, especially after their one-to-one with Landscape, who is also safe. Dioptase escapes the bottom 3 due to people finding her funny, leaving us with Tea and Crazy Food as the final 2. I personally think Tea is the least interesting of the team, so she will be the one to get exterminated in my opinion. And there you have it. I believe that Sticky and Tea will be the ones who get eliminated in Animatic Battle 3. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments, and make sure to like and subscribe if you liked the video. Thank you all for watching. Welcome to the sequel to predicting Animatic Battle 3's elimination. In this video I'm going to try to predict Animatic Battle 4's elimination. However, that isn't going to be the only focus of the video, as I will also be recapping my prediction for Animatic Battle 3's elimination and seeing how wrong I was. I'm doing that first, so let's get into it. As you may recall, the losing teams were Diet and Happy Meat Bill, with one member out of each team to get exterminated. Before I talk about the eliminations, I just want to say I vastly underestimated how many people would vote on the episode. I predicted that around 3,800 people would vote on a member of each team. I was way off the mark, as 13,646 votes were cast for Team Diet and 13,636 for Happy Meatball. Quadruple what I predicted the amount would be. Not sure where that 10-vote difference came from, though. Let's start with Diet. One of the only two contestants I got correct on either team was Crazy Food, who I correctly predicted would survive the bottom two. I did get the other two members of the bottom three right, but I predicted that T would leave and Diapotase would stay, but it ended up being the other way around. Other highlights include Nonagon being the first safe by a good margin, Landscape not being close at all to the top 4, and Doorstopper being the other contestant on this team I placed correctly. As for Happy Meatball, I didn't get a single one of them right. The closest I got was Bowling Ball and Yoshi Egg having their placements reversed, and Sticky being in the bottom 2, but even then she survived. Wasn't Bouquet she was up against either, but Eye Patch. Not gonna lie, I was just as surprised as he was. Here's all of them. The ones on the left half of the screen I overestimated their placements, and the ones on the right I underestimated their placements, with Doorstopper and Crazy Food in the middle because I was on the money with them. Before we move on to what you actually came here for, I want to take a quick intermission to remind you that voting for Who Will You Vote in Animatic Battle 4 is still open as of this video's release. The poll for that will be linked in the description for the sake of convenience. Now, back to the video. Now on to what you actually came here for. Given how many votes were cast, and that the total will very likely increase again, I'm going to increase the total, but not by as much as last time. I'm thinking somewhere in the realm of 18,000 votes for each team. The teams that lost were Grant Swag and Object Fool. One team full of fan favorites, and one not so much. Object Fool was the first team to destroy their sunflower seed, so whoever gets eliminated will be in 61st place. I can say, however, that the person being eliminated will not be Demon Core, who is a chill character despite what they are. Kane's Cup, the winner of Object Fool, the show not to be confused with this team, will also be easily safe. And P, which is who I voted for on this team, will too. I think viewers will like how aggressive they can be at times, and they also kind of remind me of Golf Ball in some ways. Bioluminescence comes next, despite causing the team's loss, because people like their obsession with death. A mushroomy infested creature, they are. If they hadn't caused the team to lose, I could even see them being above P. Mushroom does not have visible eyes, but as you can see, I think they will be safe as well, since they seem pretty mysterious, so I imagine voters would want to keep them around so they can learn more about them. Hives will also be safe since people might feel bad that he still hasn't gotten his bee back. This leaves Share and Don't for the bottom two. Neither of these two really do all that much. However, Share at least has a personality, so I think he'll survive and Don't will get 61st place. After this part, there will be under 60 contestants left, the first big milestone. Given that they did something very big in this episode, Notepad is the clear answer for who will be the first one safe. Acid will also easily survive due to unique aspects like his voice and his ability to retract his limbs. Bush in a Pot is a contestant who I think will have no trouble surviving this episode, they're just plain likable. The rest of this team is a lot less clear-cut though. Juicebox, Chocolate Milk Carton, and Silly Straw will probably all be safe, but I'm not certain in what order. If I had to choose, I would say Juicebox, then Silly Straw, then Chocolate Milk Carton. I'm not even gonna be suspenseful here. I think Sipapole will also be safe, and Nacho is the one who will be getting out here. There's no doubt in my mind about this outcome because Nacho is such a nothing character to me. At least Sipapole has Straw Gang. And that, right there, is the conclusion to this video. To recap, I think Don't and Nacho will be leaving the game next episode, and the total amount of votes cast will be around 18,000 per team. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. My release date prediction for BFDIA 14 ended up being wrong. There goes my original plan for this week's upload. Instead, I'm going to release my predictions for the final 2 episodes of Inanimate Insanity II right before episode 15 comes to YouTube on Saturday the 10th. Since we already have a confirmed release date for episode 15, I'm going to predict the release of episode 16, the finale, instead. If we assume episode 15 began production immediately after the end of Invitational, which was released on March 3rd, and was finished right before the first tour location in late June, that would mean a production of about 4 months. Assuming production begins right after episode 15 comes out, my prediction is that episode 16 will come sometime in February of 2025, as they may want a couple extra months to give the finale a higher production value. I simply don't think there will be another hiatus like the one from 13 to 14. Now for what happens in the episode. At the end of the last, we see something happen to Toilet with the new Mi Phone model. I don't think anything will be done with that in episode 15, but it will be saved for the finale instead. A fight scene maybe? That would be really cool to see our Mi Phone fight that evil Mi Phone, I think. Also in the finale, we'll see the return of Cobbs after all this time, but that's a pretty softball prediction, I would say. I specifically think they will wait until the finale, though maybe with a tease at the end of episode 15. With Microphone gone, I'm not sure what Taco is going to do from here. Obviously she has Mi-Pad, but exactly what she plans to do with them, I have no idea, aside from being able to teleport now. Episode 15's challenge, going by the trailer that was released, involves fire in some way. Given that we seem to see them gathering sticks, my guess is that it will be able to build the biggest bonfire. A simple one, as respite for the finale. Who will be eliminated in episode 15? I think season 2's winner will be decided just like how season 1's was, so I could see Baseball and Suitcase team up and vote out Knife, as he is the strongest at challenges. So I think Knife will get 4th place. Then I also think Lightbulb will be the one who wins that final challenge, which also means she wins the $1 million. One more thing, do I think Inanimate Insanity will get a 4th season? The crew haven't really said either way if that's even a possibility or not, but I think there's a solid chance. If there is an Inanimate Insanity Season 4, I think the cast will mostly be composed of new contestants. If there are veterans, it probably won't be any of the final 6 of Season 2, or anyone who has an invitational, especially the top half placers. What do you think of all my predictions? It's been a while since I've talked about Inanimate Insanity on here, and it was a bit of a nice change of pace, I think. I should talk about non-BFDI shows more in the future, and I likely will. For now, to recap the important stuff I have solid predictions on, I think Season 2's finale will come in February of 2025, the finale will have an epic fight scene, Knife will get 4th place, Lightbulb will win the show, and more likely than not, there will be a 4th season of Inanimate Insanity. Thank you for watching, make sure to subscribe with notifications on, and I'll see you in the next one. The finale, which has been revealed to be a full-on movie, is right around the corner, or at least the first part of it is. Some people have been waiting over a decade for this moment. Hopefully it will be worth the wait. Episode 15 was, even after a 4-year wait. However, it is time for me to try and predict what will happen during the finale of Inanimate Insanity Season 2. But first, I also need to recap my predictions from last time, starting with the release timeline. I predicted that the finale would release in February of 2025, and was way off on that as the first part is releasing on September 7th. Not helping is that at the time I believed it would be all one episode. People kept quoting a Q&A session with the Inanimate Insanity crew in the comments about how I was incorrect, but I never thought to seek it out since, as of this video, they have not released it officially from what I can tell, and I honestly forgot they were even doing one. My mistake. There was nothing about MePhone X, but there was indeed a tease for the return of Cobbs at the end of episode 15. He attempted to call MePhone 4 right at the final moments of the episode, but MePhone hung up on him. Taco ended up having a pretty central role in episode 15, forcefully taking over hosting for the episode, with MePad's help as the latter hoped the contestants would join him in quitting the show. I actually sort of got the challenge right, as part of it was in fact to build the biggest bonfire. However, there was also a truth or lie component, or as MePhone calls it, truth or flare, to try to raise a moving platform up to the rope to burn it. As for the elimination, 2 contestants ended up leaving the game. Lightbulb was in 4th place as she effectively dropped out upon getting to see Paintbrush again. This also means that my winner prediction is invalidated. Evidently, MePhone learned nothing in this episode because guess who surprised the final 3 with a second elimination? Suitcase had to choose between knife and baseball to take to the finale. To the surprise of many, she chose knife, so baseball got out. Since that's all the predictions that have been proven or disproven, that means it's time for new predictions, starting with the release dates. We already know Part 1 is coming on September 7th. They refer to it as Act 1 in the trailer. As movies are usually split into 3 acts, I'm thinking that this will be no exception and that there will be 3 parts to the movie. For the other parts, it has been confirmed by Brian Koch, best known as the voice of Fan, that the rest of the movie will hopefully have released by Christmas. I'm more specifically thinking Act 2 will come in October, and Act 3 by early December. Before we get into more actual predictions, I want to touch a little bit on a couple of other things that have been confirmed about Part 1 specifically. For one, we know that most likely Taco and Pickle will finally have a confrontation for the first time since 2012, as the shots below appeared one right after the other. It will likely be MePad who encourages her to take this step as well, going by this 3rd shot. We also know for certain that every contestant from Season 2, except Marshmallow, and at least some from Season 1 will be included in the finale as well, as seen in these screenshots and the thumbnail for the trailer. For the thumbnail, I don't know what they might be reacting to. It might be Taco, but Lightbulb and Baseball looked shocked too, and they already know she's around. Back to predictions, I still stand by that there will be at least one fight scene in the movie. It just feels fitting to include one, you know? We see in the trailer for episode 16 that MePhone 4 is still worried about confronting Cobbs. I think in episode 16 we will finally actually see him again, but the actual confrontation won't occur until one of the later parts. For who the winner will be, it is down to Suitcase and Knife. To tell the truth, I could see this one go either way, as both played a great game and either will be a great winner. Since I have to pick one for the sake of the video, I think it will be Knife who ends up taking the victory here. One more thing, do I think Inanimate Insanity will get a 4th season? I'm still not really sure either way, but given that Season 2 is ending with a movie, and that one that seems to be tying up many loose ends, I think after that may be it for the series as a whole. It definitely seems far less likely after that news anyway. If there is a 4th season, I don't think it will be a competition, but sometimes it is okay to let good things come to an end, as all good things must. What do you think of all my predictions? For such a big upcoming event finale, I really thought I would have more to say, but I surprisingly didn't. Maybe I'll make another follow-up after Act 1 if I come up with more predictions. For now, to recap my predictions, there will be 3 acts total, with Act 2 in October and Act 3 by early December. There will be a fight scene in some form. Cobbs will appear in at least one scene of Act 1, Knife will end up winning the season, and there probably won't be a Season 4, and it won't be a competition if it does happen. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe with notifications on, and I'll see you in the next one. Act 1 of the finale has released, and wow, I have no words. Quite a few things happened that I could not possibly have seen coming in the episode. In this video, I want to talk about some thoughts I have, along with checking what predictions I have gotten right or wrong so far. After this video, no more on this movie until the last part releases, then I will do a final recap on what I got right and wrong in this video. Major spoilers ahead, do not watch if you haven't seen the episode, but you probably already knew that. I will be skipping the release date portion as Act 1 just came out, so we do not yet have a release date for Act 2. Just know that my prediction on that has not changed. 3 acts total, with the second coming in October and the last in December. Taco and Pickle did indeed have a confrontation, and it went about how you would expect really, aside from something that happened afterward that I'll get to in a minute. Additionally, the third shot isn't Taco being nervous, but is from the aftermath of the thing that happened after the confrontation. The part about who would appear is pretty interesting. Every contestant from the first 2 seasons appeared in some capacity, even Bo, Doe, Marshmallow, and Apple. That's what Fan, Test Tube, and Paintbrush were up to in the trailer, going to the mansion where they reside. So I was mostly right, but I probably should have guessed Marshmallow would appear. Apple too. I feel a little bad for getting her in the original video. The appearance of Cabby, Candle, and Goo in the episode was a nice little surprise I wasn't at all expecting though. It's a bit weird, in a good way, seeing them animated in the Season 2 style, though to be fair we had seen Candle in this style already in a non-canon short. And now for the elephant in the room, the portion about Cobbs. I did correctly predict that he would show up in the episode, though admittedly that was a very softball prediction that I would have been more surprised if I wasn't correct. However, he had a significantly larger role than I could have possibly anticipated for just the first part. For one thing, the role MePhone X has is tied into Cobbs' role. Cobbs is using MePhone X to eliminate the contestants. And by eliminate, I mean kill. And when I say they're dead, I mean dead. Like when it happened to Pickle, he disappeared from MePhone 4's recovery menu. That's the moment I knew things were getting real. We know it's MePhone X because they appear before whoever's about to die, even though nobody else seems to notice them. First Pickle, then OJ, then Nickel, possibly also Soap off screen. It's an open question about who might be next. Despite the episode thumbnail though, it has not happened to Lightbulb as of the end of Act 1. It could, it just hasn't yet. On the topic of thumbnails, we also now know what they are reacting to in the trailer thumbnail. The inanimification of OJ. That is how I will refer to this phenomenon where they end up dead and unable to be recovered like this. Though just permadeath probably would have also worked. This also ties into the challenge, and Miphone's role, as instead of confronting Cobbs himself, the final challenge was for one of Suitcase and Knife to stop Cobbs once and for all. This led to the biggest mind flip of a reveal of all, that Miphone didn't just create the show, but the very contestants that compete within. It's not an entirely unfounded twist though. Like any good twist, there was some foreshadowing beforehand. In Season 2, Episode 14, Van glitches briefly as he gets abducted in the same way Knife and Suitcase did this episode, and doesn't know who he is outside of the reality show. Then, in Episode 14 of Invitational, Cabby has a very difficult time trying to remember her parents when asked by Bot, ending up unable to do so. After that massive twist, I'm not sure how I could possibly predict the rest of the movie, but I sure will try. I am not too confident about there being a proper fight scene anymore, as how do you fight against something you cannot even see? Miphone X seems to have the ability to turn invisible after all. How do I think the winner will be decided? I think that Suitcase and Knife will end up teaming up and end up both technically being the one to defeat Cobbs. Given that the honor system will decide who the winner ends up being, one of them will end up letting the other have it. I'm leaning towards Suitcase being the eventual winner, as it would be a solid character development moment for Knife. Alternatively, one of them may end up dying in the fight and ending up inanimified. I think this would also result in a Suitcase victory. In this scenario, Cobbs would be just about to die, but would try to take out the duo at the last second. Knife would then sacrifice himself so Suitcase can return home. I could potentially see this go the other way, but I think Knife is more likely to be the one to make a heroic sacrifice for Suitcase than the other way around. As for the possibility of a fourth season, after the events of this episode, I would be pretty surprised if there was a fourth season with how final this finale feels so far. It's still a possibility for sure, but if it does happen, it definitely has an all-new cast, probably with even Miphone being replaced as host. I will admit, this video was definitely more of an excuse to talk about episode 16, as I really didn't have many new predictions, or really even many changes to past ones. Also, there is no recap this time, as there really isn't very much for me to recap. Thank you for watching, make sure to subscribe with notifications on, and I'll see you in the next one. With Act 3 of Inanimate Insanity the movie right around the corner, it is now time for me to make another one of these. A lot of what I predicted was proven wrong by Act 2, so I am going to take one final crack at it. Hopefully this time I'm not too far off the mark. Just know there are spoilers for the Animatic Insanity II ARG. First is the release dates. I did correctly guess that Act 2 would come out in October. However, Act 3 has been confirmed for a late November release, which is earlier than what I expected, that being December. I was close, but not quite there. The main thing I got wrong is there was no fight scene between Miphone 4 and Miphone X, because as it turns out, Miphone X was being controlled by Toilet, who was alive and well after all. Toilet also ended up being the one to foil Cobbs' plan to capture the Shimmers in the end. It now seems pretty unlikely that there will actually even be a winner of the show now, as both Knife and Suitcase, as well as all the rest of the characters created by Miphone, are now non-existent. Why do I believe this? Before Toilet disconnects the me, which is what causes all of the remaining contestants that hadn't already been killed off to cease to exist, Knife says there won't be a winner. Instead, MePhone 4 is going to be the one who has to defeat Cobbs. After all, I highly doubt that Cobbs is just going to give up on trying to get the shimmers that easily. An interesting little moment towards the end of the episode featured Baxter near Soap's phone, and we know it's likely Soap's because it's pink, and as we've seen in the past, she has a pink phone. I'm curious why this moment specifically was included. Was it just to show Baxter was still alive? If so, why was Soap's phone in the shot? This feels like an underrated loose end that I hope gets touched upon in Act 3. As far as the fates of the contestants go, we do know Bo and Doe aren't connected to MeLife anymore, so they have to have come back somehow. I think how that happened will be revealed in Act 3, and maybe we'll see at least some of the contestants brought back in ghost form. We also know that Bot is confirmed to still be alive from the crossword from the ARG, or alternate reality game, that led to the reveal of the release window for Act 3. So there is a very strong possibility they will have an appearance in the episode as well. Finally, at this point, I think it's pretty much certain that there isn't going to be a Season 4 of Inanimate Insanity. This finale already feels too final for there to be another season without it feeling forced. I'd rather it end on a high note like this anyways, assuming Act 3 sticks the landing, which I'm confident it will. This does beg the question about what is next for the crew after this, though. Inanimate Insanity 2, and very likely the show as a whole, are drawing to a close very soon. That makes this my last chance to get this right. Hopefully at least some of my predictions for the final act of the Inanimate Insanity movie end up coming true in the end. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe with notifications on, and I'll see you in the next one. Inanimate Insanity the movie's third act has now released, and with it, Season 2 has finally come to a close after all these years. It was a real satisfying end in my opinion. Since this is the end, I don't really have any predictions to make, so I will just be recapping what I got right and wrong about it. First off, in regards to my predictions about all the contestants dying, the following things are the case. First, the contestants were not all permanently dead. They ended up being able to be brought back by running some kind of race to get away from an evil red line. Almost all of them made it too, except one. Since Knife did end up getting turned into a ghost, being the only one who did, I think I can half count this prediction that some contestants would be brought back as ghosts, though it didn't happen in the exact way I imagined it would. On that topic, it turns out Knife did make a sacrifice, just not on behalf of Suitcase, but instead for Marshmallow. See, she was lagging behind in the run, so Knife turned back, carried her, and threw her across the line before he was killed off by the red line. There was a kind of fight scene between MePhone 4 and Cobbs after our phony friend warned the Shimmers about what Cobbs intended to do, though it was pretty one-sided and was mostly just self-defense, and MePhone buying the contestants inside him time to escape. One thing I did not see coming at all was Box. Just Box. As it turns out, Box wasn't always just an inanimate box. She was once alive, but ended up drowning. She is also the one who reveals the suitcase the way that everyone can take to get out. Speaking of suitcase, it looks like there did end up being a winner after all. After finding out that the picnics table can summon weapons if utilized in the right way, Suitcase summons a bomb of some kind, and fools Cobbs into thinking it was the egg that gave MePhone the ability to use MeLife in the first place. I mentioned Soap's phone in the last video, but that never ended up coming into play. Bot did have an appearance, but it was only at the end after everything else had already happened. Finally, I think there's a solid possibility of a Season 4. I highly doubt it will be a competition season, but I also don't think this is going to be the last we see of these characters, especially as, if I remember correctly, we were promised an interaction with Bo and Bot and we still haven't gotten one yet. I think there's possibilities for more that can be done with these characters, but even if the show ends here, it was a great way to leave off. Thank you for watching, make sure to subscribe with notifications on, and I'll see you in the next one.